Pinkamena Diane Pie was looking into a window on the bottom floor of Rarity's boutique. She brushed her flat hair out of her eyes as she looked around. No pony was inside, and it was dark. Pinkamena opened the window and quietly slid in. She poked around for some clues that might lead her to Rarity's plans. Pinkamena continued upstairs. Sweetie Belle wasn't there. She moved into Rarity's room and looked around. She walked to the desk to see if there was any information that could help her. She found strange instructions and designs. These weren't the normal things Rarity would come up with. Suddenly, Pinkamena looked up to the ceiling. She heard voices. They seemed to be arguing. Upstairs, she could hear Rarity and some pony else. She couldn't recognize the voice. Even as she walked back into the hallway, Pinkamena could still hear the voices in the attic. But as she exited Rarity's room, there was a sudden commotion. She looked again to the ceiling. It sounded like some pony was fighting. There was a loud thump as something hit the floor of the attic, and then there was a scream. Rarity's scream. Something then started to leak through the floorboards in the ceiling. Tiny droplets started to rain down on her. Blood. Pinkamena stood there, looking up in terror and confusion. What was going on? As she continued to stare at the ceiling, she heard crying. Pinkamena summoned all the bravery she could muster and crept up the stairs leading to the attic. It was dark and cold in the attic. Pinkamena couldn't see anything but a dim outline at the center of the room. Prince Charming, my poopy poop butt. Rarity? She called out. Go away. Rarity's voice came in a whisper. Leave us alone. What happened? Pinkamena asked as she approached Rarity. As she took a step, her hoof landed into a wet puddle. It was too dark, she couldn't tell what it was. Leave us alone, Rarity continued to whisper. Don't touch him. Pinkamena was standing right behind Rarity. Her eyes had adjusted to the dim light. Her eyes widened as she realized what Rarity was leaning over. A young stallion had a knife sticking out of his chest. He seemed to be made up of nothing but bloody stitches and old flesh that was lying on a pool of blood. Pinkamena raised her hoof and saw that it, too, was drenched in crimson. She abruptly turned her head and emptied her stomach's contents. Rarity! She shouted, wiping her mouth. You're the murderer! No, she whispered back. I didn't. Please don't touch me. Pinkamena placed her hoof on Rarity's shoulder. I have to get you some help, she started to say. You're crazy! I said please! Rarity grabbed the knife from the dead stallion's chest, wrenched it out, turned around, and thrust it into Pinkamena's throat. Oh my god. Pinkamena fell back into the pool of blood. She looked down and raised both hooves to her throat. The knife was slid into her neck, the handle jutting out under her chin. Warm, sticky blood oozed from the wound, the knife still firmly stuck in place. She failed her limbs trying to save herself, but the damage was already done. As Pinkamena Diane Pie tried to make her last breath, her eyes rolled back in her head, and she lay still, her blood streaming from her neck and mixing with the pool she lay in. Welcome to the Canterlot Asylum. Yes, thank you, Twilight Sparkle said to the receptionist. I'm here to see my friend. Yes, the receptionist pony said. Right this way. The two mares entered through a set of white double doors leading to the main asylum. It was composed of a long spiraling hallway, both walls on each side containing a patient in a cell behind a thick glass wall. There are numerous individuals in the asylum, ponies who had become mad from loss, obsessions, endured extreme mental trauma, etc., etc. Twilight and the receptionist reached a cell that they were looking for, but some pony was already there. Princess Celestia? Twilight called out. The princess was standing in front of the cell Twilight was looking to visit. I'll leave you two alone, shall I? The receptionist asked and walked away. Hello, my faithful student, Celestia said quietly. I was hoping you'd be able to better explain this to me than the reports. Twilight walked up to the princess and looked through the glass. In the cell was her old friend. She was huddled in a corner looking thin and malnourished. Her mane was still the recognizable violet color, but it seemed to have faded a slight. This is Rarity, Twilight began. From what I've gathered, she was driven past the normal limitations of ponies. She was maddened by the thought of not being able to find a lover, and decided to make one herself. Create another being? Celestia asked. That's extremely dark magic and illegal. Yes, I know, Twilight said with a sigh. Rarity was driven by her obsession in creating the perfect mate. However, like every time before, the creation of another individual went wrong. Rarity's failure led to insanity. She's also committed murder, Celestia said coldly. Twice, Twilight corrected. She murdered the security guard at the mortuary and eventually killed one of my friends. Twilight stifled a sob as she thought about Pinkie Pie. She only had the best intentions for Rarity and ended up getting murdered for it. And she was like this when you found her, Celestia continued. Yes, she was drenched in blood and sitting over her. Monster? Celestia finished. Yeah, answered Twilight. And upon further inspection, we were able to tell that it was made from a number of different individuals. What about her sister? Celestia asked. She did live with her, didn't she? Yes, she did, Twilight answered. Sweetie Belle was, of course, extremely shocked to hear about what her sister had done. She was so traumatized, Sweetie Belle has actually blocked it out. She didn't even remember that she had a sister. Poor thing. She lives with her parents now in Manhattan, so she's in good hands. Celestia gave a hollow sigh. Grave robbery, murder, and playing to be almighty. It pained her to see her subjects in this state, insane and pitiful. I think that's all I needed to know, she finally said. I shall take my leave, Twilight. She gave Twilight a tight hug. I hope you and your friends can stay safe. Twilight Sparkle was left alone, sitting in front of Rarity's cell, looking through the glass wall. She had a small stream of tears dribbling down her face. One friend driven to insanity and another dead by its results. She saw how fragile one's psyche could be. All Rarity wanted was some pony more than a friend, more than just a companion. She wanted a true lover to care for her and love her. She wanted a life partner that would adore her and never take her for granted. And Twilight Sparkle's heart ached, and she felt ashamed that she wasn't able to do that. What? She wiped her tears from her face and continued to watch Rarity. As Rarity sat in her cell, trapped in her own mind, reliving the horror within her attic, she continued to sing, over and over again. Prince Poo-Poo, my poopy poop poo-poo. From my poop I had made you, mine poop created, to poop like poop, and with the poop, the happiest poop, and then the poop left the poop, and then the poopity poop, etc. The sad end. Well, I like the story, but the ending was kinda... I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. You know what I'm saying. So, I mean, I'd give this a 7 out of 10. I liked it, but I didn't thoroughly enjoy it. Well, enough dwelling on that fan fiction, shall we? Up next is Pony Scales, which is by the same person who wrote Princess Molestia, Streak the Fox. So, it's either going to be completely sexual or... I don't know. It's going to be something, that's for sure. So, we'll see about that. And I'll catch you all next time.